to be sure.
With some of this.
Giannis is going to play. Like Giannis himself has said it, they are trying to win and get into the playoffs. And at this point, we are past the point of no return because of what we just said before with the lottery odds.
Get it all on Bucks Talk, your all-encompassing Milwaukee Bucks postgame show. Only heard here on the home of the Bucks, WTMJ.
Heart disease won't stop us. Diabetes, allergies, cancer. Nothing will keep the Froedtert and the Medical College of Wisconsin Health Network from pushing Wisconsin ahead. We're constantly raising the bar for medical excellence and providing more ways to receive it, so you have it for all your health needs, big and small. Let's push ahead, and we'll make life here as great as it can be. Visit Froedtert.com to find out how.
Good Karma Brands is proud to be an equal opportunity employer, providing equal employment, development, and advancement opportunities to all teammates and applicants. To learn more about careers with us, please send an email to talentacquisition@goodkarmabrands.com. That's talentacquisition@goodkarmabrands.com.
With an ever-changing inventory, you never know what great bargains you're going to be able to find at St. Vincent de Paul thrift stores. It makes shopping fun because the best finds are the ones you had no idea you'd even come across. And when they're at thrift store prices, it feels good. And it feels even better to know you're helping us help others. Shop St. Vincent de Paul thrift stores on Highway 100 in Layton and Greenfield, 23rd in Lincoln, and 76th and Bradley Road in Milwaukee.
You're gonna love it, St. Vincent de Paul. You're gonna love it all when you shop at St. Vincent de Paul. Old things, new things here for you. We're always changing, we're always new. So many friendly people, smiles from wall to wall. You're gonna love it, St. Vincent de Paul. You're gonna love it, St. Vincent de Paul.
Experience an auto show like never before. The Milwaukee Auto Show hits the road with new dates and a new easy access, easy to park location. Clear your calendar. May 14th through 17th at the Wisconsin State Fair Park and Expo Center. Whether shopping or just dreaming, you'll see sleek luxury cars to rugged trucks and everyday favorites. Hundreds of new vehicles. May 14th through 17th at the Wisconsin State Fair Park and Expo Center. AutoShowMilwaukee.com.
Now that the game is done, it's our time to check in.
Porter lobs up top to Sims, who stuffs it down with a two-hand jam. Jericho Sims, 89% of his points have come from inside the paint.
Bucks Talk starts now.
Three-pointer misses, and that will be that on this one. Bucks take one on the chin here this afternoon at Fiserv Forum, dropping to 24-31.
And now, live from Fiserv Forum, here's Justin Garcia.
Well, not a whole lot of positives to come from this one, and we've talked before, when the Bucks are starting to piece together these wins and have been playing much, much better, you can point to the competition they're doing against, especially the first three in that three-game win streak. You can say, well, look at the teams you caught without their best player. And look, that's all valid, but we have seen the Bucks in the same scenario not play the same way for larger portions of this season. So there were certainly more positives than negatives to take from it and say, I see the team building something. We were quick to point out each and every time, look, there's going to be a downturn. There are always ebbs and flows. You're going to dip here in the scale that you're looking at some point. There's going to be a two-game losing streak. It's going to be back-to-back losses, I should say. There may be a three-game skid. It's how you come out of that, how you curb that, and how you move forward after you suffer the setbacks, where we are going to learn a lot about this team. And now we get our first opportunity to see that on Tuesday night with Miami coming to town, because tonight I think you heard a very blunt Doc Rivers after the game essentially have the same assessment of, we got our butts kicked. You know, this was all Toronto, and it was. 36 minutes of dominance from the Toronto Raptors, who after getting outscored 27-22 in the opening quarter and starting the game by missing their first 11 threes, it was a Raptors team that dominated just about every aspect of the game from that point forward, outscoring the Bucks 100-67 the final three quarters of this game. The positives for the Bucks, I really think there were two. They rebounded the ball. They continue that trend where they've been better at rebounding. And by the way, coming into this game tonight, here's the thing, is you can point to the schedule and the teams that you beat all you want. In those 7 games, the Bucks are number 4 in offensive rating, number 17 in defensive rating, number 6 in net rating. They've been the 5th best rebounding team in the league. They've been the best defensive rebounding team in the league. And they've been in the top half of offensive rebounding rate, at number 13. They've been really good at half-court offense. Cam Thomas has been a big piece of it. Kevin Porter Jr. and what he's done, and he's been very reliable and consistent in those 7 games plus. Those have all been big pieces of this. The biggest piece in how the rebounding ties into it is the Bucks have been even in true shot attempts on a nightly basis for those 7 games. 96.2 true shot attempts per game for the Bucks, which, for your purposes, shot attempts, we'll just go with 96.2. 96.6 for the opponents. You're getting the exact same amount of shots as your opponent. They are still number 2 in effective field goal percentage. So if you're getting the same amount of shots as your opponent, doesn't matter who the opponent is, you're going to win more of those games than you are going to lose. If you look at games prior to those 7 games, minus 4.2 is the difference in true shot attempts for the Bucks versus true shot attempts for their opponents. You're giving the opponent 4 more cracks at it than you have. And today, 93.3 for the Bucks, 104.1 for the Raptors. Those numbers are unsustainable by any team. If you give the opponent 10 more possessions to score the basketball than you have, not only are you going to lose, in the case of today's game, you lose by nearly 30 points. That's what you're going to be facing each and every time if the difference is that dramatic. And the Bucks have done a great job of avoiding it and swinging when we hear about the math and playing the math game. For the longest time, the math game was basically, is it a 2 or a 3? Threes are worth more than 2. If you're taking more threes, you're going to win, especially if you're hitting those. The math game is now possessions. With how efficient every single offense has become, how much the league is shaped into an offensive league, and it's in a spot where things are designed for leagues or for teams to be incredibly efficient on offense. When that's the case, the new math that you have to keep an eye on, how many possessions are you getting? How many cracks are you getting at this? And after a 2-week stretch, basically 7 games where the Bucks were doing a great job of just saying, at worst, we're going to be average. They let hold of the rope today. 855-616-1620, the Siding Unlimited talk and text line to join us today on Bucks Talk as this stretch, a tough one for the Bucks. They win their first game coming out of the break. The 3-game win streak is now over, and you look to start a new streak on Tuesday in an incredibly important game against the Miami Heat. We've talked about the schedule, the remaining games, and the important ones. Why this game is right up there and one of the more important games this team has left. We'll get into that coming up after this on Bucks Talk.
Off the medication and feeling so much better. Vince Vitrano here for Connect Chiropractic. One of my fellow patients, Tiara, she suffered from severe neuropathy, that's tingling and numbness in the extremities. She tried everything, finally sought care at Connect Chiropractic, and months in, her nervous system is in better sync. She's dropped 2 medications, including some heavy painkillers, because Connect Chiropractic is treating the source of the problem, not the symptoms. In Delafield, Wauwatosa, and Oak Creek, go connectchiro.com.
Hi, this is John Neal, CPA, best-selling author and founder of the Neal Group. Well, here we are. It's 2026. Remember last year when you said never again? Did it work? You didn't start your business to spend so much time doing bank reconciliations, cash flow projections, or inventory analysis. Let us help you keep your New Year resolution to stay on top of your finances and keep your books up to date. Don't do the same thing this year and expect different results. Start the year off on the right foot by calling the Neal Group to help you understand your numbers and make them better. You earned it. We help you keep it. Call 414-325-2040 now to set up a meeting to see how you can make 2026 the best year ever. The first meeting is free. That's 414-325-2040 or visit us at nealgroup.net. That's NEAL group.net.
So many emails coming in, this trip will sell out. Vince Vitrano here, Vinny's European Vacation. Would love to have you join us in October, traveling to southern Italy and Sicily with WTMJ and Colette Vacations. Our tour begins in Palermo, Sicily, happens to be where my dad's family is from. He's coming on the trip as well. Agrigento, Sorrento, Amalfi Coast, Positano, Pompeii, and we end in Rome. Nothing you need to do except sign up and show up, as my team at Colette has thought of and taken care of everything. I'll send you a brochure with a breakdown of each day on the trip, all the sites, sign-up information, and even your all-in cost and options. Email me, vince@WTMJ.com. That's vince@WTMJ.com. We've got a special get-together here at the station coming up as well. You can meet me, talk with all the folks at Colette. That's coming up on March 24th.
Let me show you the world. Come away with me.
Vince at WTMJ.com, Southern Italy and Sicily this fall.
Welcome back to Bucks Talk.
$122-294. The final today as the Raptors take it to the Bucks after that first quarter. Offense never able to find their footing today for this Bucks team, and Toronto just dominated all the hustle categories, which is something they have largely done throughout the course of this season. But you look at the two big ones, really, were what the Raptors did with turnovers and what they did with their second chance opportunities, whether it be turnovers or offensive rebounds, I should say. 21 second chance points scored off of offensive rebounds for Toronto. And I mentioned the rebound was basically even. That is true. The Raptors were just more effective with what they did on those reloads. 21 points scored off of 14 offensive rebounds. For the Bucks, they scored 11 off of 13 offensive rebounds. So you're minus 10 in those opportunities at basically an identical volume. Turnovers, however, were a much different story. 19 turnovers for the Bucks to just 8 from Toronto. 27-8 was the margin in points scored off of turnovers. So you were collectively outscored 48-19 in those two areas. Second chance points and points off of turnovers. Outscored 48-19. Down 29 in a game, you're outscored by 28. That is basically the story there. That and the Raptors finally starting to hit threes. At one point, they were shooting 67% on threes after the opening quarter. Still end up going 15 of 35, 16 of 35 down the stretch. Just 9 makes tonight for the Bucks. This is a team that I'm not saying you need to hit a high volume of threes and take a high volume of threes, but you need to take more than 32, and you certainly need to hit more than 9 in a single game. 1 of 4 from A.J. Green was tough. Only 1 attempt from Kevin Porter Jr., he made it. 4 of 7 from Ryan Rollins. That was really your bright spot. Bobby Portis only attempted 1 3. Did not make it. Cam Thomas goes 1 of 2. Ousmane Dieng only played 15 minutes, and basically 8 of those came in garbage time. He goes 0 of 2 on threes. You're going to need to hit some shots to open things up for this group, but the turnovers were the bigger part here. Way too many as a team to have 17 of them. Ryan Rollins with another tough night with 5 turnovers in that aspect. 2 from Miles Turner. 3 from Ousmane Dieng in those limited minutes. But the assists and the turnovers to finish with 18 assists and 19 turnovers. That's when we talk about the numbers and getting more offensive possessions, what's sustainable and what isn't. if you finish 1-1, you're not going to win the game. Having more turnovers than assists, that is certainly not sustainable. And we heard that from Doc Rivers after the game. It was one of the first things he started with after saying the Raptors kicked our butts and they took it to us today. He pointed out the assists. It said, Kevin Porter Jr., 10 assists tonight. You had 18 as a team. For KPJ to have far more than half of your assists in a night with just 18 assists, and then not only that, he has 10. The only other player that had more than a single assist in this game was Jericho Sims. A.J. Green, Kyle Kuzma, Miles Turner, Ryan Rollins, your co-point guard, Bobby Portis, Cam Thomas. All those players just had one assist in this game. That was the other big difference, is you're not going to beat this Raptors team in iso ball. We saw that as the game wore on, how much defensive and ball pressure they were able to apply and what that did to basically put the Bucks offense in cement and in quicksand. It picked up throughout the game. We saw several times the Bucks struggling to get the ball in bounds, in the sense that you were working right up against that 5-second clock to get the ball in. Several times you were butting right up against the 8-second clock to just cross half court. It felt like every single possession we saw in the second half especially, the Bucks were already 10 seconds or more into the shot clock, and they were still just past midcourt and hadn't even gotten into the paint. You let the Raptors set their defense, sixth best defense in the league, and they just put the clamps down on the Bucks. They forced them to take a lot of time and work to get the ball across midcourt, eat up time in the shot clock, and then they were just aggressive with their pressure that led to those turnovers and fast break points. And that was the difference in this one. And that's an area that we've talked about several times this season. The Bucks have really struggled with turnovers. It's come in bunches in large parts of the season. In that 7-game stretch, they'd been okay, right? They've been basically average at protecting the basketball, and that's what's led to the even amount of shot attempts. That's where you're going to need to sit. And look, we can say getting Giannis back, you didn't have him yet. That's not going to fix everything with turnovers. It is certainly going to help to give you another outlet and give you another ball handler and a guy that can just take some of the pressure off the rest of these individual creators. But you are going to have to be a much better team at protecting the basketball, because it just goes to show you how all of it works hand in hand. All the work the Bucks have put in on the glass, becoming a better rebounding team in all facets, defensive rebounding, offensive rebounding. You did it again tonight against the Raptors. Your secondary defense was not good enough when you look at the points scored off of those reloads, but they've been better at going to work on the glass and cleaning up in those areas. But it just goes to show you, you can't be bad at one of those areas because of what it means for the shift in shot attempts between you and your opponent. And that, more than anything, is just not sustainable in this league. You can't be bad at rebounding but okay at protecting the ball, and vice versa. You're going to have to be at least average at both areas and ideally good at one of the two. So you've put in the work. You've changed some things. Still saw a few of those errors and issues tonight when, again, we've seen different iterations of the starting lineup where you're playing bigger, and just this group in general, when you're keeping more size on the floor. They tried that a couple of times today, but I think the big issue they ran into was just shot creation. And we still see, whenever you do go to the three-guard lineup, what it leaves you susceptible to on the opponent. Offensive rebounds, that started to creep in there once again. But protecting the basketball is the number one initiative for this team. You have to value your possessions, especially when you are, season to date, as efficient and effective at scoring the basketball as the Bucks have been when they get those opportunities. That is really the one thing holding the Bucks back from being an offense that's a top 10 offense in the league, is the fact that they are not getting enough chances to score the basketball. 855-616-1620, the Siding Unlimited talk and text line to join us today on Bucks Talk. Heat come up next. That is Tuesday, game number 2 on this 4-game homestand. That's one of the games that we scheduled, or circled, I should say, on the schedule here post-All-Star break is really your most important. And we have now reached the point where you got 27 games left between now and the end of the season, and basically half of those are in that important category. We'll give you the details on that coming up after this on Bucks Talk.
So if you're looking to install a new glass shower door, you're going to want to see selection. The more you see, the better choice you can make. And that's why our store is loaded with 20 different glass shower door options. And what sets Les's Glass apart is that you're going to have somebody close by for help who's been here for years and years to ask them questions and get reliable answers. Now, no one's going to be hounding you, but when you need an answer, you're not going to have to search around. One thing you can count on at Les's Glass is that there will always be a member of our staff here with decades of experience. And that matters, because how many times have you been at the big box home improvement store, walking around trying to find someone who can actually answer your questions? This is Stacy Sinks. If it's a new glass shower door, fogged or broken insulated glass replacement, or affordable glass and mirror home decor that you've been looking for, you just can't pass on Les's Glass. Les's Glass Service, serving all of southeastern Wisconsin. Find us at lesglassservice.com.
I'm WTMJ's Sandy Max. What makes living at Three Pillars so special? Let's hear from my friend Lark.
I love the location, and that's the main reason Dave and I are there, is because of nature all around us. I knew when we moved in, I was leaving behind a lot of stress and responsibility. I decided now is the time to do what I want when I want to do it.
Schedule a tour today at threepillars.org.
Hi, this is Julie Coombs and Cindy Storm Fisher with Storm Fisher Investment Group. Are you a retiring professional worried about the direction of our economy, about making your money last?
Come see what we can do for you. Let us show you how we take care of you to help you have a great retirement.
We are at 262-796-8400 or stormfisher.com. See you soon.
Securities offered through Osaic Wealth Inc. Member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Osaic Advisory Services LLC. Osaic Advisory. Osaic Wealth and Osaic Advisory are separately owned, and other entities and/or marketing names, products, and services referenced here are independent of Osaic Wealth and Osaic Advisory.
Day after day, year after year, the heavy lifting, the repetitive motion, and now your body feels it. Your back, your knees, your quality of life.
At Access Legal, we stand up for people worn down by work.
Workers' comp is our sole focus, and our team has recovered more than $35 million for Wisconsin workers. From sudden accidents to pain that builds over years of hard work, we're dedicated to fighting for the benefits you're entitled to. If you've been worn down by work, contact Access Legal for a risk-free consultation.
Search AXIS Legal today.
WTMJ, W277CV, and WKTI HD2 Milwaukee. From the Annex Wealth Management Studios, this is News Radio WTMJ, a Good Karma brand station. The Round Ball Repartee returns. This is Bucks Talk.
Well, as we said, this was not going to be a 31-game win streak to close out the season, so there are going to be some downs along the way. We hadn't seen something like this in basically right up until this stretch that we keep pointing to started. You go back to that loss to the Celtics that I believe was by the same margin, somewhere around there, on February 1st. We hadn't seen a real clunker like this since then, with all the little things the Bucks had cleaned up and largely played better. Again, if you want to point to, look at the first three teams that they beat in that stretch of 6 out of 7. They beat the Pelicans twice, right? They beat the Bulls. You beat the Pacers, that type of group. Well, you still beat the Magic. You still beat the Oklahoma City Thunder, even if the Thunder were playing without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams and Isaiah Hartenstein. Fine. The Bucks played that game without Giannis, without Miles Turner, without Ryan Rollins, and we've seen this Bucks team play against teams without their top stars several times already this season and ultimately lose that game. It did feel like, all right, we're at least seeing something build here. We're seeing something different with this group, and that was the big thing that stood out. You can still carry that through. As we said at the top of the show, the big thing is, how do you respond to these types of performances in games? Hopefully not 28-point losses that become the norm, as it's an alarming number of home games. This team has dropped by 20 points already this season. the fact that they've been a 500 team and now below 500, I believe, at home so far this season. Neither of those things all that great. 12-13 at home. But how do you move forward? And your opportunity to do that is Tuesday against Miami. That's an important game because right now there's a decent amount of separation as it sits as of this moment. 4 games in the loss column is what separates you, 5.5 games in the overall standings. But this is one of those important games when you look at where your opponents are in the standings. There are 7 games left against teams that you would say are quote-unquote tanking. And I believe 5 games left against those teams that are currently playing tournament teams. You're done with the Charlotte Hornets, who are currently 10th, and you have already won the head-to-head tiebreaker in that series. You have 2 games left with the Atlanta Hawks, 1 at home and 1 on the road. And all you have to do is split those games, and you'll own the head-to-head tiebreaker. You have already split your 2 games with the Orlando Magic. The final game left is in Milwaukee, and that is going to be a game, if we just follow the timelines that were provided by the Magic for Franz Wagner, that's going to be a game without Franz Wagner. And then you have 2 games left with the Miami Heat. You're going to have to win both of those games to win the head-to-head tiebreaker. But really, the most critical games remaining are those 2 Atlanta games, because there is starting to be a little bit of that separation taking place from 9 and 10 to 7 and 8. All these games account for about half of your remaining slate of games. 27 games that you have left now. I believe we're up to 12, 13 technically, if we want to lump the Dallas Mavericks into that tanking group. But about half of your schedule is there. If the Bucks take care of business in those games, they will be in the play-in tournament. It's not a matter of will they. It's a matter of where will they be in the play-in tournament. Now, what does take care of business in those games mean? Well, at this point, in those remaining games against the lowly tanking teams that you have out there, you're going to have to win 90% of those. And that should be the goal. The objective should be to win 100% of those games. But really, those are the non-negotiables. You're going to have to win a high volume of those games. Then what you do with Atlanta, that's going to be huge for you. What you've already done with Orlando is going to be huge. Those games are going to determine everything for this group in the second half. And that's why it's important to just move on from losses and just review. Look, 18 assists in this game, and 10 of them came from a single player. We had more turnovers than assists. Like, all things that these guys are aware of. Right? The players know turnovers are bad. We should try to play team basketball. We should move the ball. But these are the critical things at this point in the season. And this homestand, it's 4 playoff teams. Today, the Toronto Raptors, right now they're the 5 seed in the Eastern Conference. The Miami Heat, as we just noted, they're in the play-in tournament. They're a 7 seed. The Cleveland Cavaliers are on Wednesday, so night 2 of a back-to-back. Cleveland is skyrocketing in the standings, all the way up to 3rd now, within striking distance of 2nd, who's currently the Boston Celtics. And you wrap it up with the New York Knicks, who are just behind the Celtics, and Cleveland, right in that mix. So Cleveland and New York, basically the same record here. That's this 4-game homestand. Then you go on the road, and the interesting parts of the schedule, as I've mentioned several times, in a sense, this is almost like 10 straight home games. Because who knows, number one, what that crowd in Chicago is going to be like. A weekend game that's going to give Bucks fans a chance to get down there rather easily. But a Bulls team that has already started to wave the white flag on their season. They just shut down Zach Collins for the rest of the season. They just said Jaden Ivey, who they acquired at the trade deadline, is out for a couple of weeks. They've already traded away pieces like Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu. It's a Bulls team. Nikola Vucevic was dealt at the deadline too. They've given up on this season. And we've already seen a lot of Bucks fans infiltrate the United Center in recent years. So it could feel like a home game, but at worst, it's a bus ride to and from Chicago. So the Bucks are basically home ever since they arrived back in Milwaukee on Saturday early in the morning. They're home from then all the way until Wednesday, March 11th, when they will leave for Miami for a big road trip. But that's the first part of the homestand. The next one after that road trip in Chicago, or road game in Chicago, features some interesting teams. It's a mixture of playoff teams and one of those tanking teams of like, these are the important games. Boston and Atlanta, your first two games. So there's that other Hawks game, or another Hawks game, I should say. The Utah Jazz, and the fact that you have 2 games left with Utah. Jaren Jackson Jr. is out for the season. Lauri Markkanen has been on a minutes restriction, in and out of the lineup. Same story for Keontae George. They have a top 8 protected pick. They are doing everything they can, despite that $500,000 fine they just received, to start to pull the plug on the season. Those 2 games with Utah are critical. The Orlando Magic on Sunday, March 8th. Again, there will be no Franz Wagner, barring a miraculous recovery for that game. And then the Phoenix Suns to wrap up the homestand. The road trip is Miami and Atlanta. And that stretch of those 2 games, that could be your biggest stretch of the season, if you're able to continue to tread water or better here in the course of these next 10 games. But those teams, Utah, 2 of those games left on the schedule. Indiana, you still have on the schedule. The Dallas Mavericks, I mentioned, if we lump them in as a tanking team, they're well below the Bucks in the standings at this point. That's another one of those teams. The Memphis Grizzlies, right there around where the Dallas Mavericks are. The Brooklyn Nets are on your schedule twice. You have the Detroit Pistons and the Philadelphia 76ers sandwiched in there your final, week? And that's the other thing that you got to put in a lot of work between now and then for this to make an impact. But the last week of the season has gone up and down in just how interesting this could potentially be throughout the course of the season. And now it's reached the point of, okay, let's keep an eye on this, because you may see the schedule and say, well, these are nothing games. This is a schedule similar to catching the Oklahoma City Thunder in your final game leading into the All-Star break, the way the rest of the schedule has fallen into place for the Bucks. This could also be notable for this group. So we'll take a look at that and get you set for that matchup with the Miami Heat coming up after this on Bucks Talk.
Hey, John Mercure here for Azura Memory Care and Assisted Living. Their mission is to transform the culture of care. They specialize in caring for those with early to late-stage Alzheimer's or other related dementia symptoms, and they offer early memory loss classes to help you. They specialize in this area. It's kindness at the core, locations throughout southeast Wisconsin. It's compassion, it's empathy. It's Wisconsin-based and family-owned, always welcoming people to come tour and welcome their new residents. I've seen their places. They're top-notch. It's Azura Memory Care and Assisted Living.
Hey, Gene Miller here. The heart of winter is the best time to call my friends at Hometown Windows and Doors. Save heating and cooling dollars down the road with energy-efficient replacement windows and doors from brands like Pella, Anderson, Marvin, and more. Hometown is your local source for wood, vinyl, or fiberglass, plus all of their products are installed by employee carpenters. Stop into their newly remodeled showroom in New Berlin and see the Hometown difference. That's Hometown with an E for your every window and door need. HometownWindows.com.
From the biggest plays on the court to the comments made in the locker room after. An in-depth recap of every Bucks game.
In 6 minutes. No more?
No less. Bucks in 6 on the Bucks Plus audio network. If you missed any of the game or just want to relive the biggest moments, Bucks in 6 provides game recaps every morning after. Hear the high-flying dunks from Giannis or the deep threes from Miles Turner. And catch the comments post-game about what happened on the court. Bucks in 6 on the Bucks Plus audio network. Find it now on Bucks.com/plus or on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Heart disease won't stop us. Diabetes won't slow us down. Allergies, high blood pressure, shoulder pain, cancer. Nothing will keep us from pushing Wisconsin ahead. Because with the Freighter and the Medical College of Wisconsin Health Network, forward progress is what we stand for. That means always pushing and always innovating. With new technologies and breakthrough treatments that make life better, whether we're sick or well. It means providing more convenience and more ways to receive medical excellence for all your health needs, for big and small. It means being there for you, our family, caring for yours. So let's keep raising the bar. Let's keep testing the limits of what medicine can do. Let's push ahead and make life here as great as it can be. Visit Freighter.com to find out how.
This is Bucks Talk.
$122-94 final today inside of Fiserv Forum. It was ugly, and it was all Raptors for the final 36 minutes of the game. We've talked a lot about the remaining schedule for the Bucks because there was frankly not a whole lot of positives to glean from this winner or a lot to circle back to. It's, a lot of what we've seen several times throughout the season. The Bucks just struggled to protect the basketball, and they struggled with ball pressure. Things like Giannis's return will help there, and we still don't have a clear picture on when Giannis is returning. We've seen him start to do more and more. You probably saw some of the stills and footage that I think Giannis had on his socials. The Bucks did as well from yesterday's shoot-around. But Doc Rivers said, it wasn't much. He's kind of progressing his way up. I believe he went through some 3-on-3, maybe 4-on-4, but has not done 5-on-5 yet, and that is the final step in your path to returning to the court. Jim Ozarski asked Doc Rivers before the game as well, does this mean if continues to check boxes and everything goes well, we'll see him make his return by the end of the week? Whether that's the Friday game against the New York Knicks or the Sunday game in Chicago against the Bulls. And Doc Rivers would neither confirm nor deny that. So we still don't know. We just know, as we've heard, not only in this instance but several times, it's getting close to get Giannis back out there. But again, what we have tried to point out is those games on the schedule, that's what's going to make the biggest impact and difference for this Bucks team, is if you win those games against the teams that are in front of you in the standings. Not necessarily the Clevelands and Torontos and Miami, but especially those Atlanta games. That's what's going to decide a lot here. It doesn't mean, you're not catching the Knicks, you're not catching the Cavs. If you drop those two, fine. We'll get them next time. Win in Chicago and win those games on the 5-game homestand. At worst, you're going to have to tread water. You're going to have to avoid some of those stretches that we saw several times this season, whether it be lengthy losing streaks or, 2 out of 8, or 2-10, that type of stretch of play. You just can't afford that anymore at this juncture in the season because of what teams have started to do in terms of separating themselves and the hole that you dug for yourself. So you're not going to win every game the rest of the way, but how you rebound from those losses, what you clean up and how you play better, that's going to be the big thing with this team going forward. It's a Miami Heat team that is interesting. They have won 3 consecutive games now, but they have not been the same team that we saw very, very early in the season when that Heat team was clicking on all cylinders. They were 13-6 was the high point for Miami this season. Really 14-7 was the high point for them, and that was on December 1st. Since then, they went leading into this 3-game win streak. They went 14-20. And now the 3 straight wins have come in New Orleans, in Atlanta, and against Memphis. So, look, we're not going to disparage those because the same thing, you can flip it around and turn it on the Bucks and say, well, you won prior to today 6 out of 7. You beat the Pelicans twice. You beat the Pacers. You beat the Chicago Bulls. You beat who's on your schedule. But it's a Miami Heat team that has just not been consistent this season. And they won and got off to that 14-7 start through their first 21 games. I don't know if I would say it was a product of smoke and mirrors, but remember all the talk around Miami was, holy cow, look at the breakout season that Norman Powell is having, and think about all the guys the Miami Heat had been linked to. Were they going to get Bradley Beal after he was bought out? We got Norman Powell because the Clippers got Bradley Beal. You got him for nothing, and look at the production that he's given you here. They were playing at a fast pace. They were doing it without Tyler Hero. And it's not to say that the Heat are a better team without Tyler Hero, but just as we talked about, when Giannis comes back, when other guys come back, it's a good problem to have, to be very clear, but there are ripple effects and what it means for other guys that were either on the fringe of the rotation or had moved up a line, to borrow a phrase from hockey. They become a second-line guy, or they get moved up to the first line when somebody's out. Now that person's back, you slide back to your natural spot, and in some cases, you get even less to deal with. And I think we started to see that with the return of Tyler Hero. But teams just caught on to the pace thing as well. We hear it every single year coming out of training camp when every team talks about we're going to shoot more threes and we're going to play at a faster pace. And we heard it from the Bucks. You hear it from just about every team. Every single player had the best offseason, and they're in the best shape of their career. And every single team is going to play faster, and they're going to shoot more threes. Miami did it for the first 34, 35 games of the season. They continue to play at a high pace. But teams figure out, here's what we do. Here's how we'll defend that. Here's how we'll combat that. And I think that's what you've seen to the tune of them going now 17-20 since then. I do think this iteration of the Heat is much, much closer to that 17-20 version of themselves than they are to the 14-7 group that we saw early in the season. But they're going to present a challenge for this Bucks team. So how do you slow down that offense? Today was another game where you faced an offense that likes to play at a faster pace and get up quick shots, score in transition. Miami shots, they like to get up threes, but they're going to push the tempo in this game as well. So how do you slow that down, and how do you slow down their backcourt? Because that's the other thing where we have seen issues for this Bucks team on a handful of occasions so far this season. You think about guys like a Tyrese Maxey tonight, today, Emmanuel Quickley. I'm not going to compare him and say he's like Tyrese Maxey. Some of his skill set is like Tyrese Maxey in terms of the pace that he plays at, unconventional shots, and just getting into the paint and scoring from there. You saw a lot of that and struggle to stay in front of him. So that is going to be the challenge for the Bucks, to stay in front of the ball and be able to keep up with the pace Miami wants to play, but also try to dictate the pace yourself. Tuesday night, though, that game here inside a Fiserv Forum. We'll see how the Bucks regroup after this tough one today. We'll check in on the NBA scoreboard, one big one currently in action. We'll update you on that score and get you set for game number 2 of the homestand coming up after this on Bucks Talk.
Heart disease won't stop us. Diabetes, allergies, cancer. Nothing will keep the Freighter and the Medical College of Wisconsin Health Network from pushing Wisconsin ahead. We're constantly raising the bar for medical excellence and providing more ways to receive it, so you have it for all your health needs, big and small. Let's push ahead, and we'll make life here as great as it can be. Visit Freighter.com to find out how.
I'm very familiar with Gruber Law offices because they're always out in the community.
Gruber Law offices are known to be honest, hardworking.
They're always involved in our neighborhoods.
Gruber Law offices make our community a better place.
They are the best.
For nearly 40 years, Gruber Law offices has helped people throughout Wisconsin. If you're injured, we're here to help. One call, that's all.
Wisconsin would not be the same without Gruber Law offices.
Recently, a seller that unfortunately ended up choosing another agent called me. She said she made a mistake, and what she was expressing to me sounded like she kind of was bullied into signing with him. Is it typical? Not always, but it will never happen when you hire a Century 21 Benefit Realty agent. I want our agents to be able to look in the mirror and say, I'd want to work with me, not because they're good at saying what you want to hear or offer the lowest commission, but because of trust. Because if you're not feeling that from your agent, that's a problem, and I don't want that. At 1.9% on the listing side of your sale with our commission capped at $19,000, Century 21 Benefit Realty leads with a very fair and transparent commission structure with maximum marketing that can get your home sold fast and for the best price. And saving money matters, but working with someone who will tell you exactly what you need to know up front, that creates trust. And that matters too. This is Angela Calais with Century 21 Benefit Realty, benefit-realty.com, where you pay less for full service. Each office is independently owned and operated.
WTMJ's Vince Vitrano for Inspired Closets, something that can positively affect your mood, getting organized and clearing out the clutter. A well-rounded closet could be the most powerful room in your home. Inspired Closets can transform your closets or laundry room, your pantry, any space in your house. What separates Inspired Closets from the others? Their 3D design software and a culture that promises to build what you want and need. Call my friends Katie and Dan today, a wife-husband team ready to help. Inspired Days start in Inspired Closets. InspiredClosetsMilwaukee.com.
Welcome back to Bucks Talk.
All right, so Tuesday night is game number 2 of this homestand with the Miami Heat. It does not get any easier the rest of the way, as then you have night 2 of a back-to-back on Wednesday with the Cleveland Cavaliers, the resurgent Cleveland Cavaliers with James Harden and toe now. And it wraps up Friday with the New York Knicks. It's a Miami Heat team that we mentioned likes to take a lot of threes, likes to play at a high pace. They're in the middle of the pack in their three-point efficiency, but they're going to get up a volume of makes, and they are going to push the pace offensively. So protecting the basketball, something we've talked about quite a bit already this season, it especially became problematic today, is going to be especially critical in that matchup against Miami on Tuesday. It's still too much season left to put a ceiling, really, on where this Bucks team could finish. It is going to be a very, very tall task to get out of the play-in tournament, to get past the 7 seed. It's not impossible. Today's result doesn't help when you look at a Raptors team that is out of that group, currently 5th in the Eastern Conference. But that's the big takeaway, is this was disappointing. This was largely not the style of play we've seen from this group for 3 weeks now. They had started to clean up a lot of those tendencies, and they bubbled up today. It was a disappointing result. It was a disappointing process. But there's still plenty of games left in the games we just ran through against those, lower-level teams that are tanking, against Atlanta, against Miami, against Orlando, those types of games. Those are the most important games that are going to decide where the Bucks finish in the standings this season. And, oh, by the way, getting a healthy Giannis is going to have a lot to say about that as well. Will it be on Tuesday that we see Giannis? That much we don't know yet. Does not quite sound like that if we just kind of read between the lines in what Doc Rivers was asked and what he had to say prior to the game today. But we'll find out on tomorrow's injury report what the status is going to be of Giannis. So you look to start a new streak on Tuesday with the Miami Heat coming to town. That is a 7 o'clock tip-off from Fiserv Forum, and 6:30 is when our pregame coverage begins for game number 2 of this 4-game homestand. As we wrap here, I mentioned one other game of note taking place right now for the Bucks. The national game of note taking place is out there in Los Angeles, and the Celtics are up 49-43 on the Lakers. But as far as the Bucks are concerned, the more important game is in Washington, D.C. They're just starting the second half, and the Wizards trailing by 8. It's the Hornets up 64-56. Tuesday night, our next game broadcast, the Bucks and the Miami Heat. That's a 7 o'clock tip. 6:30 is when the pregame coverage begins. And as always, be sure to stick around after the game for Bucks Talk. We'll talk with you once again Tuesday night.
WTMJ's Julia Fellow for Appliance Gallery.